Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and welcome to INFP Poetry Corner, where I'm doing crochet at the same time as I'm reading poetry, and I'm going through mostly the French poetry that I grew up with. This is going to be a little bit different because it's going to be actually a fable. It's an Aesop's tale, but it's Jean de La Fontaine. And Jean de La Fontaine had he took a lot of Aesop's fables and copied them, but he made them palatable to a French public. So I do appreciate that about him because I never learned the Aesop's fables as a child. I only learned the whatever Jean de La Fontaine had to say about the Aesop's fables. Anyway, I'm continuing this granny square and trying at least because it's getting all tangled up. Anyway, this one is kind of dear to me because it is part of why I named my channel Radish Raven, because I like ravens. And this one is called Le Corbeau et le Renard, which is a fable about a crow. But in France, the word corbeau can be used for both crows and ravens. So I like to imagine that it's a raven, even though I think that in most translations you will find crow as the translation. But basically it could also be a raven. Anyway, all of these fables have a moral at the end, and basically it's do not be like the raven. I think that like ravens have a sort of symbolism and such that there were also the mythical Hugin and Munin, the Vikings. They the Vikings were really into different symbols with different animals, and Hugin and Munin were two ravens, and they were like tellers of omens, and crows were often, well, ravens or crows, we don't know exactly, were bringers of good or bad omens. Apart from the fact that, well, I also liked the Ravenclaw stuff and the Harry Potter stuff. I kind of like ravens. There are all sorts of crows and blackbirds and all kinds of animals like that in the culture, but in all sorts of different cultures. But here the thing is to not be like the raven, because the raven is stupid, basically. I don't know what to say. Let's go. So this is called Le Corbeau et le Renard. And I know this one almost by heart since primary school, so let's see if I need the words even. Maître Corbeau, sur un arbre perché, tenait en son bec un fromage. Maître Renard, par odeur alléchée, lui tint à peu près ce langage. « Eh, bonjour, monsieur le Corbeau, que vous êtes joli, que vous me semblez beau. Sans mentir, si votre ramage se rapporte à votre plumage, vous êtes le phénix des hôtes de ces bois. » À ces mots, le corbeau ne se sent pas de joie, et pour montrer sa belle voix, il ouvre un large bec, laisse tomber la proie. Le renard s'en saisit et dit « Mon beau monsieur, apprenez que tout flatteur vit aux dépens de celui qui l'écoute. Cette leçon vaut bien un fromage, sans doute. » Le corbeau, honteux et confus, jura, mais un peu plus tard, qu'on ne lui prendrait plus. Okay, and the English translation is either the crow and the fox or the raven and the fox. So let's pretend that it's a raven. Master Raven, perched on a tree, was holding a cheese in his beak. Master Fox, attracted by the smell, said something like this. Well, hello, Mr. Raven. How pretty you are. How beautiful you seem to me. I'm not lying. If your voice is like your plumage, you are the phoenix of all the inhabitants of these woods. At these words, the raven is overjoyed. In order to show off his beautiful voice, he opens his beak wide, lets his prey fall. The fox grabs it and says, My good man, learn that every flatterer lives at the expense of those who listen to him. This lesson, without doubt, is well worth a cheese. The raven, ashamed and embarrassed, swore, but a little late, that he would not be taken again. So, yeah, basically, the crow or the raven tells himself that he will not be taken again. And it's unfortunate for the crow, but the fox has already taken advantage of him, so it's a little bit too late for that. Basically, the message is that of be humble and don't brag, which, it was not something that I needed to hear when I was little, but it was the moral of that story. But I do find the story kind of engaging, like you can really see and tell from the tone of voice and of the crow and the fox. The fox is smart, My favorite animal used to be the fox, and then the raven was one of my favorite animals. So then I was like having a hard time deciding on whose side I was on, because I just like those two animals. So I don't know why. Yeah, and I kind of like La Fontaine's take on different tales, because they are so theatrical, they're so dramatic, and he made them easy to memorize by the simpleness of it, and the way that he makes the characters seem so alive. So he did the Fox and the Hare and all of those, but I think that for French people, especially, the most famous ones of his tales is not the Fox and the Hare. It's there's the ant and the cigale et la fourmi. I don't know what you call it. The cicada and the ant is a very well-known one in France, and another one is this one, Le Corbeau et le Renard, the raven and the fox. And then we've got other ones that I also had to learn for school. So I think that it's pretty, like these fables are pretty universal, because they were written in the by the Greeks, you know, Aesop and such. But Jean de La Fontaine, like he made them into poetry that French little kids could read, you know, and in that way, you could also criticize the king and the court without really getting caught. I watched a documentary about La Fontaine. He was really extremely smart, but he had to be very careful because he wrote these at the time of Louis XIV, and you had to be careful about, like, you know, making sure that the king liked you, otherwise you would be cast out of the court. And he was the Sun King and was like absolute ruler, so you had to be careful. And La Fontaine was careful, and that's why he decided to do fables, because that is something that is morally correct, while at the same time kind of making fun of the vices of different people by equating them with the animals in the fables. So he wasn't pointing anybody out directly through this, but he was trying to make sure that people would have morals that were, well, widely accepted by the people at the court and the church and the king. So nobody wanted somebody to brag. The only person who was allowed to brag was the king. Same thing with the fox and the hare, you know, like these are things that you want children to learn, but also adults. And at the time they were trying to be so, they thought that they were so smart, basically, and that they were so sophisticated and civilized. So having these little tales in French, also not just like in Latin, like the church, was a pretty. That's why he became a classic in French literature. He wasn't only making stuff for young children; this was also for adults. It's just that with time, this is what little French kids are taught. It's one of the few things that French people decided to keep from the monarchy, is these fables, and also Molière's theater pieces, because, well, they were also making fun of society in a way, but without criticizing the king, because they weren't allowed. Molière wasn't allowed to do that. So Molière and La Fontaine were kind of on the same page. Okay, well, here we go. This is my final granny square. Okay, I wonder what you guys think. I mean, this is kind of outside of poetry because it's not really poetry, it's fables. But I do want to share it with you guys because my channel is called Radish Raven, and I think that it was kind of an inspiration because I just like the story. I'm not really for like the moral of it, but the characters seem so alive and so real, and like I like La Fontaine's way of telling stories. It really formed my brain when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see each other soon. Bye.